This is not a test. The state of California is under emergency. Please stay in your homes. Do not leave. If you leave, you will be under heavy surveillance. Something has broken into our dimension. Stay inside for your own personal safety. Again, this is not a test. If you wish to leave your home, you may be facing dangers beyond our help.
I'm a 24-year-old soldier, and after what happened to me, I have had an uncontrollable fear of sirens. Every Saturday night at camp, I can hear screams that only I can hear. I wake up my friends sometimes just to see their reactions and maybe figure out a solution about it. Maybe even check it out or something like that. But they never heard a thing. Every time I hear those screams, they're either a man's, a woman's, or a child's scream. But there's something peculiar about them. It has this quite noticeable static sound every time someone screams. Or should I say, whenever a scream plays. It sounds like it's coming out of a siren, and it wakes me up every night. I've learned to ignore it, and I thought that it's probably just me imagining things, since I didn't like sirens that much as a kid either. Too loud to be enjoyable. It wakes me up every night, and it sounds very realistic. So I thought I should ask the headmaster if our sirens accidentally play those weird sounds at night. Next morning, I talked to him about it, and he said that it may have been an error. But even if it was, the sirens were turned off at night. Only the alarm ones were on. I tried to get him to look deeper into this thing, because I doubt it was just an error, and I was sure it was coming from a siren. But he said he thinks I'm talking nonsense, and sent me to do some exercises with the other soldiers. He might have been right. I maybe was just a bit paranoid after all, so I thought. But this night the sounds weren't that loud. It sounded as if it was playing from somewhere inside the forest. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to check it out. I grabbed a flashlight, a shotgun, and sneaked out of camp to go into the forests and investigate. Now, I know I may sound like a dumbass for doing this, like going out of camp to go check it out, but those screams were making my sanity fall apart. I kept walking and walking. Nothing was found, but I could hear the sounds getting louder. I'm sure I was approaching it. I ended up in a straight dirt road, and then I saw something. It was too dark to see, but I could see something really freaky in the dark. It was in the middle of the road, so I pointed my flashlight at it, and there it was. A slim monster that was about as tall as a tree, having long arms that could reach its toes, and for a head of two sirens connected into one tube. It looked very skinny, as if it was only bones, but you could clearly see some flesh on it, and it had metallic wires going through its body. I was terrified, but without any second thoughts, I immediately held my gun and shot it. It didn't die. The bullet marks were clear and I could see some blood running down, but instead of showing signs of pain, it started walking towards me. Without any second thoughts, I ran the opposite direction from where I was facing. The sirens started playing sounds to scare me and kept playing it over and over. The static sound always gave me a fucked up feeling in my stomach, but from close up, it was more terrifying. It then started to play some other weird sounds coming from its sirens, such as tornado warnings, Amber Alert announcements, and generally announcers speaking about scary things, such as murders, criminal escapes, and other messed up stuff. I could run really fast, but even though it was walking, it wasn't that far away from me. Let's say I was far enough from it to not catch me. I grabbed my gun again, stopped, and shot a siren. The sounds it was playing were glitching out. I managed to outrun it, but it started approaching me pretty quickly. I was far enough, but I could still see it in the dark. I was running for about half an hour, felt more like an eternity. Our distance didn't even change by a centimeter. It felt like I was running on an infinite road. Luckily, I could see a car, thought someone was there, whoever it was. I needed them to get me away from that thing. But to my disappointment, it was locked. Big mistake stopping. The monster was now a bit closer, and the road got really muddy, so it slowed me down. I got out of the road and got inside the forest. It didn't come in. I could see it facing at me, but it stopped moving. I saw my camp. I was relieved, but still scared to stop and relax. I asked the guards to let me in, and since they knew me, they obviously opened the door. They asked me what the hell I was doing outside this late, and how did I get out. I apologized and asked them to keep it a secret, but I later explained to them what I saw and how I left. They probably felt sorry for me and thought that I was being paranoid, so they told me to go get some rest. I swore to them I didn't lie for what I had seen. They still didn't believe me. I shrugged it off and went back to my bed. That night I was so terrified. It was the most scary experience I ever had. Around 5-6 a.m., I woke up to sounds of screams and a subtle smell of smoke. I came outside to see what woke me up. Everything was on fire. Towers were torn apart, and I could see piles of dead bodies. The thing that caught my eye, though, was what I had seen some hours ago. That tall, skinny siren head monster. It was responsible for everything. Soldiers begged me to help them, but I could not do anything about it. They were literally torn in half. The monster saw me and reached out to grab me. It missed. The whole camp was on fire. I even wondered if I was in hell. I ran and ran. It chased me, but I never stopped running. After running for so long, I came to the end of the cliff, and now that there was light, I saw the monster more clearly now, and it was more terrifying than before. It stopped walking.
Do you like heights, Mark?
How could this monster know my name? This had to be a never-ending nightmare, but it was reality. Come to me. I begged the monster not to kill me. I cried and asked it to leave me alone. To my surprise, it left. Not sure if it regrets its decision or just wanted to get revenge later. As I watched it turn around and disappear into the woods, I felt relieved that I escaped out of this situation. I went back to camp just to see all those dead bodies and broken buildings. But I had to call someone or I wasn't leaving this place. I'm always carrying my cell phone. So I called 911 and told them to come to the camp's address. When they arrived, they told me to explain what happened and how I survived. I described everything by detail, but they thought I was joking and told me to act serious. I told them I was, and they finally took it seriously. Sort of. They said they'd investigate this. I packed my stuff and they brought me back to my city. I went back home and was happy to see my wife and kids. They were surprised I came so early. I was supposed to come home 5 months later. I explained to my wife what had happened, and she just wouldn't believe me. She said I probably needed some rest and got all this shit out of my crazy imagination. However, all this makes me curious. Am I living in a nightmare? Was I actually paranoid? Whatever it was, it's done for now. I pushed the curtains aside and opened the window to get some fresh air. I looked outside. It felt good to be home. But what I saw in the distance made me feel shocked. The monster was on top of a building really far away. I tried to ignore it and went to get some sleep. But as I closed my eyes, I could hear that all too familiar sound.
Citizens